Some things made me feel terrible because I thought people might not understand them yet. In fact, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour was the most popular show on TV when it first came out in 1971. Even though they laughed and hit each other, they were torn apart by a dark secret. Here it is, the shocking truth about Sonny's betrayal, the contract that made Cher feel like a slave, and the balcony of the Vegas hotel where she almost killed herself. This is the story that broke up America's favorite couple from cheating to stolen money. Sonny Bono was born in Detroit, Michigan on February 16, 1935. His full name is Salvatore Philip Bono. His parents, John Bono and Santo Bono, came from Sicily. Jean was only 14 years old when they got married, and they fought a lot, sometimes in front of their kids. The family moved to Englewood, California, in 1942 in search of a better life. Sonny didn't want to go to school. His folks wanted him to be a lawyer or a doctor. He had trouble in school and dropped out in the end to pursue something he loved more, music. Even when he was young, Sonny liked being on stage. In Detroit, he was in his first play when he was in high school. He began playing music at school events after moving to California with his family. Their house was always full of music because his dad played the banjo and the accordion. After that, Sonny was inspired to write songs and learn new instruments like the conga drum by the time he was a teenager. But it wasn't easy for him to make it in the music business, so he had to do a lot of different jobs to stay alive. He drove a truck, worked as a waiter, did building work, and even delivered meat while wearing a bloody butcher's coat. By the end of the 1950s, Sonny was starting to get real singing chances. He sold his first song when he was 16 years old, and by 1957 he had a job at Specialty Records. When Phil Spector hired him at Phil's Records, it was his big break. Sonny learned how to write songs and make music by working with one of the biggest producers in the business. In fact, he helped make hits like Be My Baby by the Ronettes. But Sonny wasn't the type to keep quiet about what he thought. He said out loud that Spector's way of producing music was too repeated. He lost his job because of that. Instead of giving up, Sonny chose to go in a different direction, which brought him right to Cher, a young singer. She was born on May 20, 1946 in El Centro, California. She became famous as Cher after a while. Her childhood was rough. John Sarkeesian, her father, was a truck driver who had problems with drugs and gaming. He wasn't around much. Georgia Holt, Cher's mother, wanted to be an actress and got married more than once to give her and her half-sister Gorgon some security. But there wasn't much money. Georgia was in such bad shape at one point that she put Cher in a Catholic home in the hopes that it would help her. She went there every day, looking forward to the day she could bring her daughter back home. Georgia worked low-paying jobs while looking for acting parts, so the family moved all the time from California to Nevada and back again. Even with all of this trouble, Cher showed early signs of being talented. By fifth grade, she was in charge of her school's Oklahoma show and even played male parts when the boys wouldn't join. Her voice was deep and made her stand out. She looked up to actors like Audrey Hepburn and Marlene Dietrich and wanted to be famous, but she had a hard time believing in herself. She didn't think she was pretty, which made her wonder if she could ever make it in Hollywood. It was hard in high school. Cher had trouble learning because she didn't know she had dyslexia. She quit school when she was 16. She quit school because she didn't like it and went to Los Angeles to try to make it in show business. She danced on the Sunset Strip to make money and did everything she could to meet the right people. Then she met Sonny Bono in 1962. In November 1962, Sonny and Cher met for the first time. She was 16 years old and he was 27. And Cher had just moved out of her mom's house. Sonny was working for Phil Spector. In order to make it in the show business, she was living with a friend. They became friends through friends in the Los Angeles music scene. Cher didn't even see something in herself that Sonny saw in her. It wasn't just her voice. Just the way she carried herself made her a star even though she didn't try. He wanted her to become something great and wanted to help her do it. He put Cher in touch with Phil Spector, who let her sing background vocals on some of his most famous songs. Be My Baby by the Ronettes and You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin' by the Righteous Brothers both have her singing on them. It was like a crash lesson in the music business, and she got to experience recording professionally. Before Cher could really shine, though, she had a big problem. She had no place to live. She didn't have a place to stay after her friend moved out. That's when Sonny gave her a deal. The only thing she had to do to move into his apartment for free was clean his house. Cher agreed even though she was 16 and didn't have any money or a place to live. She cleaned, cooked, and helped keep the place in order. Later she told Sonny that she wasn't very good at cooking, but he didn't seem to mind. It wasn't romantic at first when they were together. It was based on wanting to stay alive and succeed. Their bond grew as they spent more time together. They worked on music all night and pushed each other to get better. By the end of 1964, they were on stage together as Caesar and Cleo. That name didn't last. They changed their name to Sonny and Cher in 1965. Sonny wrote "I Got You Babe" on a small $85 piano in his Laurel Canyon garage in 1965. That was the year that everything changed. He wanted to capture the mood of the time, which was full of young love and defiance. He woke Cher up one night and played the song for her. It didn't impress her. She didn't think it was important, but Sonny was sure they had something. For the recording, he used a method based on Phil Spector's wall of sound, which involves stacking instruments to make a full, rich sound. Harold Batiste, a skilled composer, added a balalaika instrument which made the song sound unique. Atcore Records didn't think the song would be a hit when Sonny took it to them. He didn't want to give up, though. He took copies to radio stations himself and convinced DJs to play it. His hard work paid off. "I Got You Babe" was the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 on August 14, 1965. In just 3 weeks, more than 3 million books were bought. In the UK, it took away from "Help" by the Beatles, out of first place. Sonny and Cher became famous all over the world almost overnight. They played for crowds that couldn't get enough of them on popular TV shows like Ready Steady Go and Thank Your Lucky Stars. But not everyone was happy to have them. Cher's long straight hair and bold eyeliner made her stand out in a music business full of clean-cut acts. Sonny wore fur jackets and shaggy mod suits. Some reviewers wrote them off as something new. Because they looked so wild, some clubs and restaurants wouldn't even let them in. Not so in England, where people had a different response. Their success went through the roof when British fans loved their unisex style. During their UK tour, they were allegedly kicked out of London's Hilton Hotel because of their clothes. This was all part of a PR stunt that made the news. The story made them more well-known, whether it was true or not. Even though people didn't like Sonny and Cher, they kept going. Sonny worked hard to shape their image, making sure they stayed true to themselves and also appealed to a wide range of people. As time went on, reviewers paid more attention to them. They had more hits like "The Beat Goes On" in 1967, which showed they weren't just a one-hit wonder. Aside from music, they became cultural stars. Their songs really showed what it was like to live in the 1960s, a time of social change and revolt. Cher's risky dress choices started trends, and Sonny's laid-back personality pushed traditional ideas of what it means to be a man. They were more than just artists. They stood for something bigger. Sonny and Cher had sold more than 40 million songs around the world by 1967. But fame doesn't last always. The music was shifting. Their folk-pop sound began to sound out of date as psychedelic rock took over. Albums like Good Times had a hard time getting noticed. There were no longer any sold-out stadiums by 1968. They were playing in small clubs instead, which was very different from when they were at the top of their game just a few years before. At first they only talked about music, but as they played night after night, something strange happened. Cher's natural charm began to shine through. Between songs, she started to say mean things to Sonny. He went along with it, acting like he had no idea what was going on and let her jokes hurt him. People thought of old-school comic duos when they talked back and forth, but it felt new and up-to-date. People really liked it. They came to hear the music and stayed to laugh. The word got around quickly. The way they changed led to a chance they didn't see coming. In the early 1970s, Fred Silverman, who was in charge of programs at CBS, saw them play. He had seen how well they got along when they were guest hosts on the Merv Griffin show, but seeing them live made him sure they belonged on TV. This was a very big risk at the time. There were already a lot of variety shows on the air and many of them weren't doing well. It wasn't good for Sonny and Cher's jobs either. The first movie Cher was in, Chastity, didn't do well at the box office in 1969. They were still getting out of debt and their music wasn't moving. Silverman saw something else in them though. He thought that the way they mixed music and comedy would work. For 6 episodes in August 1971, CBS showed the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour instead of another show. It was easy to read. Their theme song played first, then the beat goes on. After that the jokes began. Cher threw sharp mocking barbs. Sonny played the cute fool. For the rest of the show, stars like George Burns and the Jackson 5 were in both singing numbers and humor sketches. Cher became a fashion star thanks to the flashy clothes she wore, which were designed by Bob Mackie. The show became a hit right away. It was always on CBS in January 1972 and had already made it into the top 10 shows. Each show had a regular beat to it. It started with Sonny and Cher singing a song together, usually the beat goes on. Then they made fun of each other. Cher was the smart, snarky woman who always had the upper hand, and Sonny played the silly, good-hearted husband. Their relationship made the jokes seem spontaneous even though they were written down. The comedy sketches made the show even more fun. Repeating parts like Mr. It was funny to make fun of normal life on Ms. Sonny's Pizza and TV, but Vamp was the one that stood out. In it, Cher played a crazy femme fatale, showing that she could be both funny and glamorous. The Jackson 5, Carol Burnett, Ronald Reagan, and Farrah Fawcett were some of the famous people who appeared on the show. All of these visits kept things interesting, but Cher herself had the most attention. Her clothes, which were made by Bob Mackie, were bold, gorgeous, and one of a kind. They got as much attention as the show did. It was a surprise how popular the show became, but once it did, it was a big hit. By the end of its second season, it was always in the top 20. People came to expect Cher's one-liners on the show. Somehow she could bring Sonny down with quick, easy fun. She made fun of how tall he was, how smart he was, and how he sang. But her jokes were never mean, no matter how sharp they were. She said one of her most famous lines when Sonny was singing out of tune. No breaks in her speech as she said, "I can't be off-key because you're the only one singing." People loved how she turned the normal husband and wife relationship on its head. As opposed to being the inactive partner, she was in charge. This didn't happen very often in the early 1970s. Most of the time, women on TV were supposed to be helpful. Cher broke that mold, which made her a star for many people. Funny things and music were both important. At the end of every show, they sang "I Got You, Babe," and their young daughter Chastity, now Chaz Bono, would often join them on stage. It made them remember that they were still family, even though they joked. They didn't just sing their own songs, though. They also sang other hits like "The Beat Goes On," and they played songs that were famous at the time like "Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves." These shows weren't just for fun, they helped Sonny and Cher's singing careers get back on track. By the early 1970s, they were not as famous as they used to be as recording acts, but the show brought them to the attention of a new group. It was also a great way for Cher to start her independent career. Songs she sang on the show like "All I Ever Need Is You" became big hits. Aside from being famous, the show gained respect in the business. It ran for 3 years and was nominated for 15. In 1972, it won one for Outstanding Directing in a Comedy, Variety, or Music Series. At that time, variety shows were very competitive, so this was a big deal. The show did well in part because it had a good writing staff, which included a young Steve Martin. Future stars like Terry Gare and Murray Langston, who became famous as the Unknown Comic, were also in the group. By 1974, the third season of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour showed that Sonny and Cher's marriage was falling apart.
As they joked and smiled in front of millions of people on TV, they still looked like the perfect team. But off-screen things were falling apart in their relationship. Cher had to face the hard truth that Sonny Bono had been cheating on her. She told him years later how much it hurt. One woman or even five was not enough for him. The betrayal was bad enough, but the fact that Sonny had so much power over her life made it even worse. He made almost all of her choices, like her job, her clothes, and even who she could hang out with. Cher put up with it for a long time because she thought Sonny knew what was best, but his power got too much over time. When Cher found out something shocking, things really changed. Cher Enterprises was the name Sonny gave to their business, and he owned 95% of the shares in that company. She had worked hard, but she had almost no power over her money. Everything changed after that. She had been part of a pair for years, but now she saw what she could do on her own. She didn't just want to be Sonny's partner. It scared her to think about going out by herself. Sonny made sure that their contracts kept her tied to him, which made it hard for her to do well without him. She later said that she felt like a golden goose, only useful for what she could give. She was under a lot of stress. She stood on the roof of a hotel in Las Vegas at one point and felt so stuck that she thought about jumping. She could have given up, but she chose to keep going. She was going to make her life better. The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour was one of the most popular TV shows for many years. It first aired in 1971 and quickly became a mainstay of American culture. Millions of fans tuned in every week to see their singing performances and comedic sketches. These two seemed to be inseparable on TV. Their marriage was having problems behind the scenes. Cher later said that she had been stuck for years. She said that Sonny had a tight grip on all of her personal and work life, making it nearly impossible for her to escape. On January 21, 1974, the last episode of the show was filmed. After only 1 month, Sonny asked for a divorce. People didn't know that Cher had already asked CBS to call off the show. Under the terms of their deal, she couldn't keep working with him. In February 1974, Sonny was the first person to go to court. He asked for a breakup before Cher could ask for a divorce. Some people thought it was a way for him to control the story and keep his money safe. Then there was a nasty court case over money contracts and who would have care of their daughter Chastity, who is now known as Chaz Bono. In court, Cher fought for her rights and her part of what they had built together, even though things were going badly at home. Fans were very sad. Cher said Sonny had cheated on her because he had said he would change but never did. Then something even bigger became clear. She found out that Sonny had almost complete power over Cher Enterprises, the company that handled their money. He had 95%, the last 5% belonging to his lawyer. Cher had nothing to do with the money of the company, even though her name was on it. It hurt a lot to be betrayed. Then the most shocking thing happened. As part of her court battle, Cher said that Sonny was forcing her to work for him. She said that he had lied to her and made her sign papers that gave him full power over her job and money. They agreed that she could not work for other people without his permission because of these contracts. She used the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution as proof in court. This amendment forbids slavery and forced work. It was a shocking claim that made Sonny very angry, but it gave Cher the power to change her contracts and take back control of her business. While Sonny Bono and Cher were getting divorced in 1975, they each tried to make it as a solo performer. Sonny started the Sonny Comedy Review in September 1974, even before the breakup was official, to try to get back to what made the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour a hit. He kept a lot of the same comedians, but something was missing without Cher. People lost interest because the joke didn't hit them as hard as it should have. The critics also weren't pleased. The show was dropped after only 13 episodes, which was a big blow for Sonny, who was having a hard time doing well on his own. Cher's story was very different. She got her own variety show called Cher on February 16, 1975, not long after she got divorced. It was clear from the start that she could take the stage by herself. Big names like Elton John, Bette Midler, and Flip Wilson were on the first show. The show was an instant hit because it had music, comedy, and crazy outfits created by Bob Mackie. The people who didn't like Cher said she didn't just live without Sonny, she thrived. The show was even nominated for an Emmy, but even though it got off to a good start, Cher stopped it after only one season because the network changed and she got another project with Sonny. For the Sonny and Cher show on CBS in 1976, they got back together. Since they were separated, the idea seemed odd, but at first people were interested. Things were different this time though. Cher was divorced from Greg Allman and married rock star Greg Allman again. Both Cher and Sonny had moved on with their personal and business lives. Things that used to feel normal now looked weird. The funny chatter that made their old show popular felt forced now. Ratings went down and by 1977 the show was no longer being shown. The only other time they worked together regularly was for a short time on The Late Show with David Letterman in 1987. Cher's career took off like a rocket while Sonny had a hard time getting started. Hits like Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves, Half-Breed and Dark Lady made her a huge star in the late 1970s and early 1980s. She was more than just a singer though, she turned into a serious performer. She became a Hollywood star with her roles in Mask 1985 and Moonstruck 1987, and she got good reviews for her part in Silkwood 1983. When she won the Best Actress Oscar for Moonstruck, it was clear that she had changed everything about herself. She didn't stop there either. She changed pop music forever with Believe in 1998, which used auto-tune in a way that no one else had. People all over the world loved the song, which started what is now called the Cher effect. She became more than just a singer over the years. People looked up to her because of her daring style, fearlessness and ability to stay in style no matter the decade. It was a totally different road for Sonny. He made a surprise move into politics after having a hard time in show business. He became mayor of Palm Springs, California in 1988. His success in the 40th miniseries led to a bigger step. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives as a Republican, serving the 44th District of California. His government work was mostly about protecting the environment and changing the way property laws worked. He was in office until his sudden death. On January 5, 1998, Sonny Bono's life took a terrible turn. He lost control of his skis at Heavenly Ski Resort in South Lake Tahoe and hit a tree sharply. The collision killed everyone. He got hit in the head very hard and died right away. The police said it was a freak accident that could happen to anyone but the best skater. It had nothing to do with drugs or drink. Michael Kennedy, the son of Robert F. Kennedy, had died in a similar sledding accident just a few days before. The death of Sonny made it clear how dangerous tree snowboarding can be. At age 62, Bono had already lived several lives. He had been in two famous bands, Sonny and Cher, and then ran for office and been successful. His job as a Republican congressman for California's 44th district had been since 1990. His sudden death broke the hearts of his wife Mary Whitaker Bono and their two young children, Cher, Sarah and Shanna. In an unexpected change of events, Mary stepped up and took his congressional position. She kept it for almost 15 years. Even though Sonny and Cher were no longer together, they had a long past together. Cher gave a moving speech at his funeral. She said he was the most interesting person she had ever met. She talked about their past together, his oddities and how he had changed her life. It was honest and sad. People had been speculating about their friendship for years, and some even asked her why she was speaking at his wake. But there was no doubt at that time, no matter how different they were, Sonny meant a lot to her. Cher changed in a way that few artists ever could after her split in 1975. She ruled over both movies and music. It was in the 1980s that she won an Academy Award for Moonstruck and acted in movies like Mask and The Witches of Eastwick that got good reviews. Then in 19, not long after Sonny died, she did something that no one expected. She let Believe go. The song changed everything. It made auto-tune popular as a voice effect and spread around the world. It was #1 in 23 countries and sold more than 10 million copies around the world. Cher was the oldest woman to ever land at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. She did it at age 52. Believe, the song that got her a Grammy for Best Dance Recording, made her a pop star for good. Cher didn't go away even as the music business changed. During the 2000s, she went on huge goodbye trips that made hundreds of millions of dollars. She ruled Las Vegas with shows that were always sold. She wasn't done yet. She played the lead in Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, and put out a record honoring A-Bad. Some decades after she first came to public attention, she was still a but the story of their child, Cher's Bono, may be the most emotional of all of them. Cher's Bono was born Chastity Bono in 1969. She came out as a woman in 1995 and then publicly changed her gender to male in 2009. His story was told in the Emmy-nominated film Becoming Chad's, which started talks about gender identity across the country. Cher became a strong supporter of LGBTQ+ rights and wrote books about his life. He made history in 2011 when he was the first transgender person to compete on Dancing with the Stars. His involvement was a first, but it caused some debate. There were protests from conservative groups, but Cher stood his ground. He became one of the most well-known transgender speakers in the media over time. Cher has always been very independent, so she had a hard time at first with Cher's change, but she got over it. She has become one of his biggest fans since then, showing that personal growth and pure love can win even in public. Even though Sonny and Cher got divorced in a messy way, they were still in each other's lives. After he died, Cher told everyone something they didn't expect. Sonny had told her he was sorry for the pain he had caused during their marriage before he died. Even though they hadn't talked in years, that moment helped them make peace and start over as friends. Their marriage had its ups and downs. Cher said it had lost all love by the end, but she cared about him all the time. He took a shy and awkward kid and made her into one of the biggest stars of her time. Even when things were going badly, they could still make each other laugh.